All right, everyone. So if you have always wondered how to undeck a Z-Wing from Active USA, because theirs are the mammoth of Z-Wings. But it looks difficult, but it's really simple. So real quick, first thing you gotta do, you lower those legs down. It's just like disconnecting a trailer. Lower those down, unhook the hoses, pull the fifth wheel, pull out from underneath it. And one thing you want to also do is make sure that you get, when you're doing all the hoses, get all the air hoses off first before you do anything with the actual Z-Wing, just like you would normally do when you're undecking. Once you are disconnected from the Z-Wing, next step are these. First step, take that pin out and then hammer that big ass pin out from there. Once you have taken that mammoth of a pin out, you're gonna come over here. So you wanna loosen this bolt to right about here. Then this will slide forward. And you're gonna get this bolt. You gotta tighten it back up so that doesn't move anymore, stays in place. You gotta do that on both sides. Once that is done, then you're gonna come back to this pin right here and you're gonna unhook it like you do a regular hook when you're hoisting. Right behind it is where the pin is. You pull that out, and then you put it up here in this toolbox, or put it on the floor for now if you want. Right up here is a toolbox that has everything that you're gonna need for undecking this Z-Wing. Inside of it is where the axles are stored. You get those out, put them next to the trucks where you need them to go. On the ends of it, on the other side of that, it will have letters that will tell you where it goes. Underneath all this is the wood and the blocks that you're gonna need to unhook it from the bottom of it. So inside the box, there are 2 4x4 pieces of wood. And there should be some little thin pieces of wood that I put underneath it. You're gonna wanna put it right about here, but just that much underneath it. It's gonna barely be under there. You gotta do that on both sides of the Z-Wing so that you can teeter it, so that you can unhook all this in the back. Before you lower the Z-Wing down to the ground on top of that wood, you need to disconnect these bolts. That first bolt you see, there's one there and there's one on the opposite side of the steer axle. Those are the ones that you need to remove. Sometimes it's difficult to get them out because steer arm gets in the way. So you just gotta get up inside and turn the wheel whichever way you need to so that you can get those bolts out. Just take off those 2 bolts. You don't wanna take the whole thing off. Once you do that, now you're going to lower the Z-Wing all the way to the ground on top of the 2 4x4s on one on each side. Before you lower the Z-Wing all the way down, you gotta get the blocks. There's these really long blocks inside the toolbox, and you put it under there, and you wanna make a ramp. So the really long one, and they got some short ones that you put behind it. So that way, when you back the truck off, the bottom of the drip pan or the truck doesn't hit this as you're backing off the Z-Wing. When you're lowering it, keep an eye on it. What I do is I get right here, and when it gets lower and lower and lower, I get it just right. Before I get onto the wood, I go to the opposite side to make sure it's on that one as well. Now, you might have to do that a few times, which sometimes it's hard. Like if you can't get the teeter just right on the back side, you might have to get them to help you with a forklift to lift it back up so that you can jack it back up. Because these trucks are really heavy. But this is the reason why we're teetering it. We've got to release the pressure on that strap right there so that you can take those pins out up there. And that pin down there. Then the strap, you take the strap off, put it inside the box. So now once you got that done, and if the pressure's released off the strap in the back, then what you're gonna do is you're gonna come over here. This is right where the wood will be, the little 4x4 piece of wood. You're gonna get your little sledgehammer and you're gonna knock the wood out. That's the whole reason why we barely put it underneath the Z-Wing. So that way it's easy to knock out. So you're gonna knock it out on both sides, and then the Z-Wing will fall to the ground. Make sure your feet are not in the way because that's gonna hurt. Okay, so it takes me a few times sometimes, even though I've done several of these Z-Wings, to get the teetering just right. Now, there is a simpler way that you can do this. You gotta go out and buy a 4-pound scissor jack that you use for cars, you know. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna get that on the back part of the Z-Wing. What you wanna do is you wanna find you a 2x4 to put in between the beams on the Z-Wing. You see that little lip right there? You're gonna get the 2x4 underneath that piece and on that piece right there. Then you're gonna put the scissor jack right in the middle of it. That way you can raise it up and release the pressure from the straps. It makes it so much easier. Sometimes you can't find a 2x4 to use though, so you gotta get creative. So usually, you know, when we undeck or by the hoist, there's all those pieces of wood and whatnot. Well, you can get those thin pieces of wood off those big pieces of wood and use those, like use 1 or 2 of those. So, and then once you get that up, the scissor jack up, and you release those straps, then you're gonna lower the scissor arm back down and then back the truck off. Also, don't forget about these blocks on the steer suspension. You gotta remove those too. It's a quick walkthrough on how to take a Z-Wing off 2 trucks, the Mammoth Z-Wings from Active USA. I'm probably gonna be undecking it tonight when it's dark, so I won't be able to actually video me actually doing it. But whenever I get the chance to, I'm gonna make sure that I add a daytime disconnect of the Mammoth Z-Wing. I hope this is informative for you guys. Comment if y'all need any more questions, and I'm always here, guys.